Now let me bring on our friends Cynthia MIfsud and Jody White. Welcome. Cynthia, thank you very much for being here on Black Friday, on a day after Thanksgiving. We're here talking about this kind of dark topic and it's really dark, folks, because all of us have loved ones. All of us have family and people that are important to us and crucial or instrumental in our lives. My grandparents were enormously influential on my life. If it weren't for my Mimas and my pap, I wouldn't be half the person that I am today. So just sitting around yesterday with family and noticing who's there and who isn't there. Cynthia, tell us about how this story started for you. I believe it was a trip to a PNC bank that sort of set a lot of this off from what I've read, and even that itself, that was even allowed to occur is mind blowing that that's allowed to happen. Tell us how this began sort of and introduce yourself to the audience here as you go.
I'm Cynthia MIfsud, and I run a blog for my mom called Justice for Betty Hayes. You can follow along with our nightmare there. So I had both my parents living with me because they both had dementia. And my father was leaving the house, and we knew it was going to be, any time that something really bad was going to happen. Already bad things had happened, but it was getting worse. So we knew we needed to either put them in a nursing home, or someone needed to move in, or someone needed to bring them somewhere safe with them. Well, we didn't want to put them in a nursing home because they did not want to go to a nursing home. And my grandma was in a nursing home, and it was just I just have horrible memories of that. And I would never want to do that to my parents. So I was in a position, my house was big enough that I could take a portion of my house and turn it into a little apartment for them where they would have their own space. We had a little kitchenette for my mom. She had a walk-in bathtub, a bedroom, a little sitting area, and it was right off my kitchen. So super convenient. If anyone needed anything, it's not like you have to call anybody. I'm here,
You know
So
how much that would set you back in an Airbnb these days, folks?
right.
Just to have that,
Right.
set up, say.
All my siblings agreed we would use the money from my parents' trust to create this space. All right, so now I have this space in my home and no grandmother. My mother's not living here now. My father passed away, and all the expense to change it back or to put my home, back like it was, all gonna lie on me. I would still love to have my mom back in her apartment. My dad passed away, and then his sister was really ill. She had dementia, and she was getting a lot worse. So I went to Alabama with my son, and we went to see her for what would be the last time. She ended up passing away 2 months after that. And while I was gone, my niece took my mother and refused to return her. And my mom was here at my home in her little apartment with my sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law had just had surgery, so she had a neck brace on. She was in a good shape to sit with my mom, but obviously she wasn't in any shape to battle my niece about not taking my mom.
Oh,
And
Lisa's been there, and I've had spinal surgery, so I know what that deal could be like. You just feel so powerless. You feel so defenseless,
exactly.
so
And
vulnerable.
we weren't there, and she tried calling us, and we were in this at my aunt's, who lives in this small area of Alabama that there's no phone service, that our cell phones weren't working. So she had to track us down through the families and get the landline to finally get a hold of us. She ended up calling the police, and the police came out and took a report, but that's where it ended. They didn't do nothing. So then I called Adult Protective Services, who, told me, go out to the house, and show your durable power of attorney and call the police and have them do a civil escort to the home. So that's what me and my brother and my husband went out there, and that's what we were going to do. Well, the police came, and they went in, they saw my mom, they said she was okay, and that they had another power of attorney, and it overrode mine. Mine was from 2013 when my parents were of sound mind. So how does this new one, since the dementia diagnosis, override mine? Oh, well, there's nothing we can do. That's a civil matter. Can't do anything. And I was just blown away. Like, are you kidding me? This is a granddaughter. How do you allow a granddaughter to take my mom and create a new power of attorney? And so I told my brother, we need to get to the bank before she gets to the bank and clears out her account. So we rush over to the nearest PNC bank. And while I'm sitting there in the office with the manager, lo and behold, my niece comes through with my mom in the drive-through, presenting them with a new power of attorney and a revocation of my power of attorney. And the bank manager told me, that she had notarized it herself because she's a notary. She's also a paralegal, so she knows, the law and how the system works. He told me she's not allowed to notarize her own document. Your mom's not allowed to sign it with dementia. And this is fraud. And he told her she wasn't getting anything, but he took the documents and he sent them up to his fraud department. Well, the fraud department looked at it all, closed my mom's account, did not call the FDIC, did not call the police, just sent me the check for my mom's trust. After all the years my father had banked with this bank, since he worked way back when he was working, so that's how they left him high and dry, just gave me the check and washed their hands of the situation. And by then I had already filed for guardianship, because when I called the attorney who had set my mom and dad's estate plan up, he told me, well, you need to file for guardianship. Had I known the hell I was entering, I would have never filed for guardianship.
I was just about to ask for clarification if that's what tipped all of this off, because that's what Lisa has educated me about. It's like, as soon as it's like a vampire, because people talked about vampirism in the chat a little bit earlier, as we were talking about the bloodlust our government has for its own people. In that sense, though, if you ask the government to come in your home, you just invited Dracula in. Like that, you just broke those vampire rules.
And the crazy thing is, they wouldn't come in my home. So they wouldn't come to my home where my mom had lived for 2 years. They only went to where my niece was and talked to my mother, who had had dementia since 2016, and this is 21 when it happened, and talking to her where she's living with my niece, her granddaughter, and then my sister's weaseling her way over there, trying to get in all of it. And they're telling her, oh, Cindy stole your money. Oh, Cindy's bad. And, manipulating this person. And my mom, she's helpless. What is she going to do? And I don't blame her at all, because, she was held there without me. So she had no way for us to talk to her. We weren't even allowed to talk to her, because right away she got restraining orders against me, my brother, my husband, and she tried to get one against my brother's wife. So, and she got them in a county that's all you do is file the paperwork and give them your money and you get it. So you didn't have to say, oh, she tried to, hurt me. She came to my house and beat me up. In her report for the thing, it said, I came to her house with the police. I mean, what is wrong with that? Right? Well, that's what I was directed to do. Go to her house with the police. And that's what I did.
And what people don't understand is that the protective services are wolves in sheep's clothing. They're the very cog in the wheel that makes this the racket.
Yeah, these aren't anomalies, Lisa, right? Like these are common stories that all lead to the same ends whenever it comes to these guardianship and conservatorship cases. That, once enacted, like once the motion is set in place, that the government sort of just has a playbook that it runs through. It's
their MO.
Like AI program almost, right? It's just as mindless and just as moralless and heartless as an AI program, in my opinion. Feels nothing for you.
To make a long story short, she was isolated from me, both my brothers, all of our children, our grandchildren. She missed 2 weddings, 3 births, and completely isolated from us. We weren't even allowed to call, even though they said there was an order for us to call. My niece would sit on the phone and tell my mom we were lying and then hang up on us and eventually just not even take our calls. And 14 months, $200,000 in legal fees that I've, incurred all this time trying to fight for my mom. And Jody here, her shirt, show your shirt. Mm-hmm. Stop trafficking our elderly and disabled. That's a blue shirt group that Jody is part of, that she basically started back in 2019. And so when you're in this nightmare and you're drowning and you don't know what to do, you start looking online for people to help you. And that's how I found Jody. And Jody sat in on my cases and would, try to guide me and help me all along the way. She helped so many people in Michigan. So she's heard so many of these stories that thankfully she hasn't become immune to them, but it's just unbelievable. And it's the same playbook each time, always the same. Every case is the same exact, different people obviously, but it's the same playbook that they're following.
Well, Jody, could you take a moment to maybe introduce yourself to the audience and how you got started in all this? But then also, if you could, like if somebody asked you that, like if somebody listened to a podcast like this and they had the question that would probably pop into my brain and probably Tom and Lisa's too, is describe that playbook. Like what is the warning sign that you would give everyone in the audience for this, BS starting?
Well, first and foremost, you have to pray because God never intended for our families to end up the way our families have ended up. I did meet Cindy through my advocacy work, but my husband first was in probate back in 2012, and he has a business with his 5 brothers, and his dad passed away. And I don't want to go off onto that story because it's the same playbook. But when I was hanging out with my husband for like 5 years, raising the kids, and I was wondering like why my husband was just so irritated, because I wasn't really a part of what was going on. So it was like late 2017 and we were in Florida, and I said, Jeff, what is going on? And I ended up pulling all his transcripts and reading what he had been through for the last 5 years. And I'm a real estate professional. I've been in real estate for 40 years. And I was reading the transcript going, this is absurd. Who's acting like this? To me, I thought it was a morality and integrity and ethical issues, because I've been with the White family for 30 years, and these attorneys were able to basically, and I can read this term right here. They acts of manipulation and constitutes an act of tampering with evidence, because they had no evidence. They brought in their own false pretenses, hearsay, nonsensical information, and proceeded to harm my husband's estate. It's about $1.8 million. It's more now, but back when I was doing the research, it was over, almost $2 million. But my father-in-law had died, and then the judge says that my husband's not an heir. And I married the middle kid. I have a bunch of Father's Day footage to show that we hung out with Grandpa White. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but this was in September of 2018, and this sheriffs ended up pursuing to harm me. They followed me out of the courtroom. Then they did that damage to my arm. They basically came up from behind in front of my husband, knocked me down to the ground, put me into jail because they said that I was a threat to the court because I was asking too many questions, filing too many complaints, emailing all my legislators, going to county commissioners meetings for 9 months before I got arrested. And I ended up, I'm now a felon, by the way. Thank you very much. My good name has been destroyed. So when I went to jail for 33 days and I got out as a felon, and I did my 3 years of probation, which was 19, 20, and 21, and I was not allowed to go back to the Oakland County Courthouse. So that's when I started hanging out in the Wayne County Courthouse, because I'm a felon now. I'm allowed to do this stuff because I guess I'm a bully. And I started to bully back. And so that's when these 2 ladies, it was Tina and Regina, they had an attorney produce these shirts. They asked for some of us Oakland County people to come out to Wayne County. So a bunch of us Oakland County players had gone out and helped an older woman get out of a guardianship. So that was a little bit of a success story. She got media coverage, so that helped her. But since then, I get calls from people like Cynthia going, can you please help me? And so I'm getting better at catching the playbook. And the bottom line is we're not acting in an equity court where we're taking care of ourselves as individuals. We are not, their little pawns that they can make money off of us. And what I've noticed is there's definitely a lack of investigation. And the first comment you had made, You said, well, I read your paperwork and I've seen this. I almost fall off my seat because we don't hear that in Michigan. Nobody reads our stuff. And when I say nobody, I'm talking the Attorney General, their Elder Abuse Task Force, the legislators, the judges, the GALs. They don't want to actually investigate and read anything.
More than just a lack of investigation. No, we're talking about actual deliberate cover up.
Well, just so that you know one thing though, you got to remember one thing, because I know you're an attorney. I did not know that, but we didn't know. We trusted our system. You would hear the attorney jokes and the judge court jokes, but you know, Cindy and I, we're both, you know, middle-aged women with families. We trusted our cops, our police, our judges, everybody. We thought there was nothing wrong with calling 911 and, or in her case, calling the state police saying, hey, can you go check on my mom? And then when they found out that there was a fraudulent document, we all assumed, did we not, Cindy? You know, so we woke up. So Lisa, we're a lot different now.
As an attorney, I had the same illusion that in the court of law, that when fraud with, you know, you have irrefutable evidence and documentation of fraud, that yeah, justice would happen. And I mean, and that was coming from being a lawyer.
Well, and I think what they're mad about me is I'm not a lawyer, and they're trying to shut me up. And that's been the most struggle, because as a real estate agent, we have to know real estate law, and probate was always for us to sell a home for someone that has been deceased. So we would, you know, collect all the information. We do a market analysis. We would make sure that we had the purchase agreement. We would go and beg to the judge, hey, judge, I'm a realtor. I have done all my homework. Please allow me to sell the property. That's not what they did to my husband. These attorneys today in probate court, they basically said, hey, judge, can you exemplify the will so that we can we can sell the condo in Florida for my husband? And we to this day do not know where the proceeds of that money is. And so this is shocking me. And so when we go, and Cindy and I and a group of us are going to legislative committee meetings, we are this close to the Attorney General and the Elder Abuse Task Force. They know we're not going anywhere. Are they working with us? I don't know if I can believe and trust them, but I have to still, like I said earlier, with God, I have to have hope that the amount of us talking and complaining and standing up, we are going to get a win. But it might not be Jeff White's family or Cindy's family, but we wanted to stop for future families. And Cindy, I'm sure, being in it since 21, we now have a new guy. His name is Ted, since 2022, and both Ted and Cindy, they never should have been in this mess after what Jeff and my husband and our group exposed back in 2018. It should have been nipped in the bud in 2018. Now, the Attorney General here in Michigan did this year-long 2019 listening tour, which I went to all of them except for the 33 days that I was in jail. And she was hearing the horrific stories. And I'm a videographer, so I'm videotaping everything, making videos, throwing it out there. They don't like that about me.
Does the public have access to that, Jody?
Yeah, it's all over. Between Cindy and I think we are like the Michigan big mouths. So my husband's got, his name is Tom Frazier. He's this attorney. And I go to the little computer system, and I type in his name, and I see all these other people that have them. So and you can't take copies or pictures of anything. So you write notes. I left the courthouse, and I called this woman. Her name was Victoria. I said, hey, Victoria, you don't know me. She says, Jody, I never pick up the phone, but the Lord told her to pick it up. So we start talking. Within 3 days, I'm at her farm, her tree farm, videotaping a 30-minute segment on what happened to her. And she had a tree farm, and my husband had a commercial building. It's called the Winery. And so I'm going, whoa, it's like the same thing going on. Tom Frazier is controlling. Conrad dies and he becomes Conrad. John White dies and he becomes John White. And I'm sitting there going, no. I mean, we're all allowed to be our own people. So that was like the start of putting the puzzle together. And so Victoria and I, we worked very well together. There was another woman, Chris Abood. She had a very similar story. Her brother was an attorney, so he knew how to document everything correct. So when I took Chris to the courthouse and showed her, a pack of paper like this, she goes, how did you know to do this? I just assumed everybody knew about a courthouse and the register of actions, and where there's a vault of documents and you go in, then you can look at all the documents. She was mortified to see how organized her attorney brother was, who, by the way, stole the mother, took all the money. And Chris is still a fighter with our group because she's sick sick what happened to her family. So that's the thing. We're at the beginning, we were up against a lot of people that knew what was going on. Now we're the ones that know what's going on, and we're not putting up with it anymore. So we do a lot of rallies. You know, we go to a lot of committee meetings. We do a lot of posts on YouTube and videos like that. And I don't know, Cindy, what do you think our success rate has been lately?
I mean, we're exposing it, which I know they're not happy about. And I don't know. I mean, at least the Attorney General's office is talking to us, and, you know, they've ordered my mom's file, and I'm hoping, and, you know, that's all the hope I have, is that they're going to do something when they see the crimes that were committed. My niece having a person with dementia create this revocation of my durable power of attorney and take my mom to the bank and try to access her account. She cashed my mom's social security check. She had my mom's address changed. Within 3 months of my mom being with her, my mom was hospitalized with sepsis and had lost 23 pounds. When she was safe in the hospital, I thought, this is it. They're going to return her now when they see what bad shape she's in. No, they didn't. The judge let her go back with her, even though the hospital said not to, that she should go to a rehab facility because she was that bad. She came, took her out of the hospital, and took her back home.
Well, and Cindy, I want to read, she has Judge Freddie Burton out of Wayne County. This is what he said in a court record, and it says, as to the power of attorney that has been vested with Cynthia MIfsud, I'm going to suspend those powers at this time. I'm also going to revoke any power of attorney that has been secured by Rachel Greenshield since having moved into her home of Mrs. Greenshield. So this judge did absolutely no investigation, because the next paragraph is all about getting a conservatorship going so that they can get a hold of the money. And that's what they've done since 2021 to 2023. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of Betty Hayes' money. And unfortunately, because I didn't get a hold of Cindy early enough, once you hire an attorney, you are in trouble. I mean, you're going to get nowhere. And so Cindy has spent quite a bit of money also with attorneys. They're doing a good job, but then when they find out that they're in a scam, they run from us, you know, and they end up quitting, or they'll refer you to somebody else. And then before you know it, you have to explain the story to somebody else again. And it's another $5,000 to $10,000 retainer fee.
Or they're part of the scam right from the get-go and just take your money and make you think they're going to do what, you know, you want them to do, but they don't.
Right.
That's what Michael Caine did. Michael Caine was hired by me because he was an accountant and an attorney. And he was supposed to get my accounting right, you know. They wanted my accounting. They wanted all the receipts what it was spent to make the GrandPad, you know, and they wanted all the receipts for the caregivers that I had used. Well, it took a long time to, you know, get all that together. And even once it was together, it had to be together to their liking. You know, it had to be on their court form. Well, I don't understand how these court forms work. I hired attorneys that were supposed to do it. Each time it was shot down. Finally, I hired the attorney that was supposed to know how to do it because he was an accountant and a probate attorney. What did he do? He just threw me under the bus. When I sold my mom's house, I put the money from the sale into my mom's trust. And instead of him litigating that in court with the judge, he allowed the judge to order me to pay that money back to my mom's trust, saying there was no proof that I put it into her account. Even though I had the bank statement, the copy of the check, the deposit slip. I mean, what more proof would you need? The account went from 60,000 to over 200,000. Hello, you know? It's just so corrupt.
The fact there wasn't any investigation about the PNC thing alone, like just like where it all started. The fact there wasn't any type of investigation into like the start of that alone, and then they took all of these actions afterwards, with starting off on a false premise. And Tom, you and I have seen and talked about in plenty of our conversations in the past about how people can be led astray by being led down a false path, like given a false premise, like how we're given these BS news stories, that it costs people years of their life. And that's so precious. Like when you talk to, you know, about Jody, when you talked about having to do time and be a felon, like there are a lot of people that Tom and I have talked to that have had that same type of experience where now they
Very
have to
embarrassing.
live with that mark.
It was very shocking. And by the way, just so you guys do know that at the time, I was homeschooling my kids, and I started teaching my kids in 2010 to 2014 government. And that's when I kind of got interested in government, because I didn't listen to it when I was in high school myself. So here I am at this 50-year-old, 55-year-old mom homeschooling my teenage kids. And I made them go to the Student Statesman Institute. It was a week-long class where they got to be the state rep and the senator. Well, guess who had more fun? Me. Because I was able to go ahead and become this educated citizen, I realized what a bill was. And I mean, I feel kind of foolish that I was kind of ignorant. So after my kids, they ended up graduating and, going off to college and stuff like that, I ended up becoming a Republican precinct delegate. I don't know if people know what that is. I didn't know what it was, but it's the lowest level of election, that we are the grassroots. We are the people, and everybody's neighborhood has so many precinct delegates. Well, once you become a precinct delegate, you get elected from within. So I was immediately elevated to the state level. And only God could do that, because I'm like, okay, you guys, I don't even know what I'm doing. So, but I learned fast. I'm a quick learner. So once I got to be a it was called a state committee woman. By the fourth year, they had me in the unity group, because they could tell that I was a bit of a rebel, because I'm like, some of this stuff doesn't make sense. Why? I asked too many questions. So this was about the time when my husband was having problems with, his case. And I was, this close to the attorney general, I mean, I'm a Republican, and we had a Republican attorney general, and they're like, oh, just go ahead and file the complaint. So I did. Well, and then my husband had a meeting with the Department of Justice and the FBI with another lady. It's now March. I'm thinking January to March, done. I'm still a committee woman. I'm still thinking, wow, that was easy. Oh my goodness. Little did I know that 6 months later, I would have been hit from behind by a sheriff, a court sheriff. Then they were trying to put me into a mental institution to, again, they had nothing on me. They wanted to ruin my credentials. They wanted to call me a crazy woman. And we sound crazy telling people what's happened to us. But now that people like Cindy and Ted and all these other people are coming, they're actually verifying that I'm not crazy, because there for a while, I did believe we were crazy. And then the positive thing about, I'm no longer part of the Republican Party now. I believe in the republic for which we stand. I think we have to protect our courts. I think these judges need to be under an equity court and not under their jurisdiction, where they can just think that they can, place an order on the record. Hey, I'm going to get Betty Hayes, bam. And, we're going to go after her money, because that's exactly what's happening with Guardian ad litem, Melinda Cameron, who was the eyes and ears of this court for this case and did nothing. She actually even went out to Jackson County and caused even more havoc in the court documents. They're not helping, they're harming and causing injury.
The judges are helping to protect themselves, judges and attorneys.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you're familiar that I'm an attorney whistleblower. In 2015, I filed a racketeering civil action proving that the Massachusetts probate and family court system, this guardianship racket, exists, and have been maliciously, viciously retaliated for it. So the system protects itself, and so I can't even get one attorney to help advocate for me. I mean, this is devastating. I mean, I'm still going through it.
But I think that's what Cindy and I are doing, is we're working together, because she just put in another brief, and her brief is real simple. I don't want my mother in a guardianship. There's absolutely no reason for Betty Hayes to be in a guardianship. She's got 4 children. 3 out of the 4 children have signed this. She wants to at least go into mediation to have like maybe a family conversation going, because what I love about Cindy's story is she not only is 3 good and bad. I'm going to say there's 3 good siblings and 1 bad sibling. Then there's all these grandchildren. And why is the one grandchild, Rachel, given so much favor? And that's what I want to know. And as soon as we can expose that, my husband, his case, because I'm a nag and I was emailing and I mean, Jeff was constantly calling the attorney general. His brother, which would be, Rachel's, the bad one in our story. Jeff had 5 brothers. I married number 5. David's the oldest. David is now in court with the attorney general being accused of bad things because that's what he did. But what we're upset about is it wasn't just David. If his attorneys didn't help him, then we wouldn't have been this way. There should have been some sort of a family communication, not this court of drama where they get to lie about everything. And then, our family, not only are we out our inheritance of over $2 million, but, all of us have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now if anybody works with an attorney, I don't talk to them because I will not follow their rules. They're liars, they're cheaters. They've been a nightmare. They've caused this problem to families like Cindy and families like my husband. And this is not my family. This is not my story. I'm an in-law that got hit up on this. And so we have quite a few families that wear the blue shirts. The in-laws are sometimes the more mouthier ones, because the one that the family members actually really tore up, it's their family member, their loved one. And so our group is continuing to expose it, like Cindy said. And Michigan, we're on fire. There's a big group of us that we are not going to go to sleep until this stuff gets exposed.
And here's the thing, see, it's not just Michigan, okay? It doesn't matter what state it is. This is happening in every single state throughout this nation, and actually worldwide, actually Australia, New Zealand. So, and I'm so proud of you guys. And here's, I think, what has been hardest for me, having been in Massachusetts, is that I've been alone doing this. And I think it makes a difference when you do have the people who can band together.
We're trying, right, Cindy?
Yes.
It's been a lot of pizza and a lot of getting together, a lot of briefs, and we hit up rallies, we go to commissioners meetings, we go to council meetings. I mean, we're just trying to get our legislators, the ones that could stop it by putting a law on the books that the judges have to follow the same rules and regulations realtors have to follow, or doctors have to follow, or clergy.
But here's the thing, it's not even necessary needing to create new laws. There are existing laws that need to be enforced. And if you can't even get existing laws to be enforced,
Right.
Exactly.
Danger, Will Robinson, there's a problem.
Right. Right.
You're spot on, Lisa. Like I said, we're a little bit newer and we don't have a law license. I call it a lie license because they have this liability. They have this ability to lie that causes us a whole lot of liability. And I don't like we don't have a 401k anymore because we had to use it to get me out of jail and to help my husband. And now we don't even have an inheritance, which is the American values were to be prosperous, give to your posterity. And they're really making a mockery of America,
I'm glad you bring that up, though, because I think, Tom, that's where you and I come in, because I think you and I have both seen that American system for what it is in a particular lens. And that's what led us to kind of being more open to anarchism as a solution.
Well, that's why they put Jody in jail. People don't understand that 3 days in jail can ruin your life. Mm-hmm. Especially if you don't have a lot of money or stuff like that. I just want to say I'm super proud of you ladies. You're going against everything that I'm against. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you ladies consider yourselves anarchists or anything, if you even know anything about anarchy, but you guys are doing anarchy right now. And I'm super proud of you.
They threw us in it. We want the American way, but we have been open. Our eyes have been open to this anarchy. But when an officer can hit, I was on the ballot as a state rep and I had won my primary. And not only did they just hit a little old Christian woman that was married to Jeff for 30 years, they hit a woman that was on the ballot that was fighting against this elder abuse crap. And that's the part that I don't understand. And that's why I don't want to be a Republican anymore, because my whole Republican Party, no one came out to help me. I was in shock so that's what I mean. This game between the politicians, we can see the Democrats and the Republicans, they're all buddies and they're just making it a mess. So I want no party system. I want to go power to the people, but I like order. I want a courtroom with court rules, but this is their equity court, but it's supposed to be our equity court. And
you nailed it when you brought up the voluntary exchange part of it. like what the American ideal is, or what America should be, or if there should even be such a thing as a nation state or an America, I think is subjective. But what isn't is that voluntary inclusion into the system, that you were you were drawn into it, right?
Targeted.
That
Targeted.
you would have never agreed to these rules in the first place. And in fact, and like Lisa said, if we are even to agree to rules in a civil society and they are not abided by, then what real
I mean,
purpose
it's
did those
pure
rules serve
kangaroo.
other than to empower other people, other
It's pure
to
kangaroo
support
court
corruption?
system.
Yeah,
I mean, I
nailed it,
have
Lisa.
audio and transcripts to show the outlandish, I mean, sick, cruel, inhumane crimes being done. And here's the biggest obstacle: getting we the people to want to care if it's not necessarily happening to them at this juncture. People wait until it's too late.
When they're
And
evicted, it's too late.
Yep. And they were targeted. That's the thing. Rachel, she was a paralegal. She worked at the Wayne County Probate Court. She knew exactly what to do. And that was the disadvantage to the aunts and the uncles, because they did not know what was happening to them. And so to see these evil, learned professionals be able to get away with, they hired Tom Langdon, which we have him. We know he's dirty. But for just to reread the transcripts of Cindy's, I can catch it all. But I write things and I put it out on Facebook. But that's the thing. My audience is people that are either victims or people that want my help, which I don't mind helping them, but I'm not a lawyer, and they want to, they don't want me helping people. But I'm trying to figure out how I can help in like Cindy, who is turned a 180 or 360, whatever, turned around. She's 100% on fire. She's fired all of her attorneys. She's going to these meetings. She's speaking out. She's speaking well. And that's what we need. We cannot give our voice away to someone else. We do not need an attorney to represent us. We actually need the attorneys, which in 1972, they were supposed to be there for the general public, just to make sure that the courts go properly. And we have a law in the books for that. Like you said, Lisa, that the lawyers would actually be just helping us with civil situations, there'd be no reason for the amount of money that Cindy had to pay. What, 6, 7 attorneys we counted yesterday, Cindy? I don't, it's ungodly how much money she's paid out to these guys, and none of them have helped her. If anything, they've made it more complicated. And that's why I keep telling her also, forget the last 2 years, go right back to May. And that's the stuff we have to tell our Attorney General, Scott Teeter, who's looking into this. And if he doesn't seem that it's a crime, what the granddaughter did to this family, then we have to fire, our Attorney General and this Elder Abuse Task Force, because we are allowed to have a standard, best practices, I call it.
And going back to the Jody being arrested, that's what they use. They use this fear. They put this fear into you, because I was threatened right away. They were going to arrest me. They told me to bring my toothbrush. All my mom's hearings were on Zoom. And then all of a sudden we had to go into court because we were the worst family they ever saw. And we were being threatened with arrest. My brother was a Marine. He was in the National Guard. He was in the Navy. He works at Chrysler. I was married. I had a grandbaby. My son's a police officer. And we're going in told to bring our toothbrush because we were fighting for what I signed up for in 2013 to be the durable power of attorney to protect my parents. That's what I was fighting for, my parents. And this judge is telling me he's going to arrest me. And then in the court that day, there was a sheriff on me, a sheriff on my husband, and a sheriff on my brother. My sister and my niece, nobody was on them. They were sitting there laughing with the guardian ad litem, the court-appointed attorney, their attorney, the guardian. They're laughing and talking really loud. We started talking because we were in a recess, and the sheriff came over and got in our face and told us, what about be quiet, don't we understand? And then when my husband asked for my attorney to object to something, the sheriff came over and threw my husband out. So there I sat by myself threat of arrest 2 weeks before Christmas. My daughter's pregnant, crying, Mom, please, you can't go to jail. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. And I had already met Jody, heard her horror story, how she was arrested. I was terrified. So you do whatever they tell you to do. And that's the day we dropped the guardianship application and they took over.
Well,
So
and another thing too, Cindy, that you guys had, because they had met me by this time, I immediately helped Randy with his, and when I say help, I'm his typist. They tell me the story, I type it. And then I word things a little bit better because I've done this for a while. And we had immediately asked it for an investigation on her file. And the thing went down in May and we met in October. So it had not been that long of a story. And this is the problem. How does a story get elevated to another 2.5 years and it's none of it from the last 2 years is relevant, except there's money being made to Melinda Cameron, Terry Jordan, and Bruce Rice. These attorneys are making a bunch of money, let alone the other 5 to 7 attorneys Cindy has paid. And the other two brothers, I love Daryl and Randy, they're not putting out any finances. At one point, Randy did hire an investigative team. That didn't work out. I don't really recommend that either because, again, we need to get our policemen educated. This was another thing I was going to show you. This is called the Vulnerable Adult Incident Report. In 2019, after the listening tour, and all of us complaining, this actual document actually came about, and it's a beautiful document. And what my 2024 goal is if Cindy Hayes's mom would have had this thing filled out properly and sent to the proper authority, which would have been the Elder Abuse Task Force at the Attorney General, she would never have had to hire an attorney because it would have been investigated as a crime. This is a crime, what is happening. This isn't civil. This is criminal. So for some reason, they want to keep saying that family dysfunction is a civil situation. Families fight. We just got over with Thanksgiving. I don't know how many of you guys had some loud conversations, but families are allowed to fight. But when they're stealing or harming or injuring or lying or perjury, false pretenses, those are criminal crimes that need to be filled out with this vulnerable report. We need these policemen to be helping us. And we have to pray that 2024, we can come up with a different plan, because I'm like Lisa, we're losing, we need to help other people so that they're not found in the situation.
Because the police are actually helping to facilitate falsification of evidence, for air quotes evidence. I mean, the actual fabrication that they help to target people.
But Lisa, here's the thing, like Cynthia always says, my son's an officer. I met her son. Her son's not going to do this. But this is the problem. If they get to get a paycheck to lie, then that's the problem. We have got to start in our area. We have a lot of people that do not like the dirty cops. So we're seeing a lot of change where the cops are being more fearful that they're going to probably try to do the right thing and that they can't have their little buddy club that they've had for the last couple of decades. And I've met, her son's like 30, 33, something like that. He's a young kid. He grew up with morals and ethics. He just needs to get leadership as far as their chief of police, which is where this vulnerable adult is this report's supposed to start with the chief of police and trickle down so that all the staff of the police are under different forms of leadership.
But in defense of the police too, a lot of them are not aware of this, and they're following the chain of command on what they're told to do.
That's
My
right,
son was
because
never
it's hard for
told
them
about this.
because they're gonna suffer cruel retaliation.
Absolutely.
That's the problem.
Unless we can get,
it's not that there aren't good ones out there,
Right.
because there are. It's the fact that the head of the snake, the fish, it rots from the head down. That's the problem.
Yeah.
West Bend's the 10th largest city here in Michigan. And I just went to the council meeting and talked to the chief of police. And he said, this is what I thought was very unique. Oh, sure, I know about this. This came out a couple years ago. I'm like, yep, 2019. And he says, oh, we only biannually have to go over elder abuse stuff. And I'm like, that's it? And they said, but the new recruits have to come in and take the class right away. But this 2024 is their biannual. So I've asked him if we could help, because we want to bring our stories. We are real stories, and we're not mad at the police well, we're mad, but you know, I mean, what can we do? It's already happened to us. We are naming names though. I'm sorry. If you're Tom Frazier or Melinda Cameron or Judge O'Brien or Judge Freddie Burton, you guys are in these public court documents. So it's already a public record. So we're allowed to say the names because they're public record. So when we go to these events, we want to get we call ourselves the VIPs, victims in probate. And we want to be able to tell everybody what happened and then let them see what the problem is. It is the lack of stewardship by our chief of police, our attorney general, our judges, and our legislators. Even our legislators are like, they're not being overly forthright to getting the job done. We have a way to remove judges out of our Michigan Constitution. If we can get 2/3 of the legislators to sign a document to get rid of a judge, they know I was a Republican candidate, knocked over, bullied by the probate court system, and they don't like me coming because they know I'm going to keep saying, hey, whatever happened to that resolution? We need you guys to do it. We can't do it. We've elected you in the republic for which we stand. You guys are representing us. We're coming to you, write the resolution. So Cindy and Lori and Julie and I, the last 2 months, we've been going to the Judiciary Committee meeting. We're getting ourselves known. I think their ears are opened. They're more Democrats than they are Republicans. And I think that they're feeling the emotion of, like your trailer was, the empty seats at a Thanksgiving dinner. These people are feeling our pain. So if we can get 2/3 of 110 from the House reps and 2/3 of the 38 senators, and then we have to bring it to the governor. And because it's an election year, again, you know, it's from 2018, now 2024, which is what we tried to do in 18. I'm asking the Lord for some favor. I want to be like Esther saying, please give us some help so that we can go back and save our people, you know, and people meaning Michigan families that do fight and do have situations. But when you start talking about stuff we learned in second grade, lying, stealing, abusing, you don't do that stuff in Michigan when you're of a certain age, like let's say third grade and above. So I don't know. Kind of scary what's going on in Michigan.
Well, with that, we should get everyone's final takeaways for this conversation before we wrap up. I mean, Tom, do you mind if we start with you?
Yeah, I just want to give you ladies a warning. I've been through the court systems, not in your type of situation, but just know that your politicians, your lawyers, and your judges are all going into a room and they're talking about how they're going to destroy your lives. So don't put too much trust into those people, because they're going to find a way to come after you, ladies, because you're pissing them off. So good for you. I'm proud of you, ladies. Keep going. And I'll try to do as much as I can on my podcast to promote what you ladies are doing. I would like to keep in contact with these ladies a little bit more. That way I can push some of their stuff, because they're going to need this help. They're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And Cynthia, what do you want people's final takeaways from this convo today to be?
I love what Lisa says is light is the only disinfectant. And that's why, I mean, I say that all the time now since I started watching her say it. And I just love that, because they keep this whole horror stories of probate court and guardianship abuse hidden. You know, you're threatened. Don't talk about it. Don't tell anybody. If you talk about it, we're going to arrest you. You know, they came after us that if we put anything on Facebook, we were going to get arrested. And well, then we have a First Amendment right to free speech. And I'm not saying anything that's untrue. So if I'm saying something untrue, come after me. But when I'm speaking the truth, you have no right to come after me. Why is this hidden? Wayne County Probate Court is still closed. They closed it for the pandemic. This is 2023 and it's still closed. We can't go down there. I can't go there and physically get my mom's file. I can only get stuff online. And they magically, all the files disappear all the time. Things disappear. They wash things so that you don't see it anymore. Files are gone. They have it all covered. Their bases are covered to keep things in the dark. Light is the only disinfectant. Thank you, Lisa. And that's what I'm going to keep doing. And I recommend everybody else do it. Stop hiding it.
And Cynthia, I'm going to include in this week's source list a little video from you at a recent rally that was on Twitter, if you don't mind, because I spotted that, and I got to give you props because public speaking is feared more than death.
And that's
So
how I felt about it. But now I'm so angry that ask Jody. I used to just cry when she'd say, "Can you talk?" I'd say, "No, I can't." And I'd cry. And now I'm like, grab that microphone and I just tell them like it is. It's just, I'm so angry.
that's beautiful to hear, though, and in a way, because where Tom and I come from like heavy music, hardcore punk, and that ideal, that anger is a gift.
Yeah.
That trauma, that experience becomes a gift
Yes.
because you can create something with it.
Right.
So Jody, now you've created organizations. You're creating content. You're putting stuff out on YouTube. Jody, do you want to give everyone your final takeaways?
I think that my biggest gift was being ignorant. And so my newest is knowledge is power. And I was never afraid to ask, never afraid to be bold. Of course, my boldness did get me in jail for 33 days and a new adjective in front of my name. But I believe that my videos that I've been making is what they're annoyed by, and I can't help it. It's just I go to almost every event that I can go to. Like I'm a real estate agent broker by nature, and I don't want to open up a company. Everyone's like, "What's your organizations?" I'm like, "It's just called VIPs. We're victims in probate." And I've met multiple families in Michigan. I'm trying to stay in Michigan because we do get a lot of phone calls. I got a phone call from a lady in Florida, and I sent her to a person in Florida because we are getting head people in each state to just help when the phone calls come in. I don't know if you've heard of SEER. It's Rick Black. He gets a bunch of phone calls, and I've gotten a few people through his organization because he's a national company. And at this point, don't be afraid to be bold. Get the knowledge, hook up with us. You know, we don't charge. Nobody I know charges. Everybody's doing this for free because we want our country back. We want morals and ethics and integrity to come back. And these people that are professionals that are in our state laws to help the general public should be helping the general public, not stealing from us and harming us and causing injury. So I think we are a lot better. I try not to be fearful because Tom, like you had said, to be careful. We walk with the Lord. You know, if he doesn't want me doing this, I will quit tomorrow. But for some reason, every day I get out of bed, I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to do today? And if I do not get an email or a text from somebody that's needing help, and then he gives me like what to do, and I get my little fingers going and I send stuff out. So between editing and reading other people's briefs and court watching and going onto the Register of Actions and learning more, that's what I do for a living now. And it's an unpaid position. And we're just asking that if the Attorney General is listening to this podcast, thank you for what you're doing for us, but you're not moving quick enough. And whatever you can do to stop the nonsense, we would appreciate it. So, and again, thank you both for putting us, and Lisa, for allowing us to come on this show today.
And Lisa, what would you like people's final takeaways to be from this episode?
So near and dear to me, and strikes a chord. So I'm going to keep it short and hashtag synergy.
Thank you, Lisa. I mean, I know that this this has a close, and that's an understatement, connection to your entire story. Like everything that led us to start doing podcasts together, like you appearing on Don Jeffrey's show, which Jody, I believe you've been on. But thank you for everybody being over in that chat. We got lots of love for everybody over in that chat. And you know what? The one thing that I found that most encouraging about the conversation there, ladies, because as you were, speaking to us and the audience about your story and everything, I'm also glancing over and I'm seeing people sort of excited that ladies like yourselves are awakening to sort of the imbalances, the frailty in our institutions, and by engaging in them the way that you did. I know a lot of people that have ran for office. I've talked to people that have tried to engage in the system that way. I've listened to people like David Knight and others, that have ran for office in the past. Our friend Vince Agnelli, Lisa. People of that nature that have that organizational, that ability to bring such order to things. But what I'll say, and what I want people's final takeaway for this to be, I'll say this, that there can be order that comes out of the chaos of taking ourselves out of this stupid system. If it was meant to always sort of fall into the lap of the entitled and the empowered in this world, if that power was never meant for us, the people from the start even, then perhaps starting something new and voluntary, starting out from the individual rights. Look into something, if you haven't, folks, something from a man named Isaiah Berlin. He talks about things called positive and negative rights. If we go by the individual, that life, everything, stems from the individual cell, that's where it should start. You're getting it wrong if you're doing it another way. That system is never meant to succeed then. If you start a building plan, if you start a construction site, Tom, with the wrong plumbing schematic, okay, you're going to run into one hell of a problem eventually. So sometimes you do need to tear it down to rebuild it. And if you rebuild it voluntarily, you can have order if you want it, just as long as we were all asked to be orderly. So thank you, ladies, for being here. Hey, we all got something to be thankful for still. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That is it, folks. We're going to head out of here until we meet again and until we are free.